Galvanize is known for providing the most cutting-edge tech education and the most collaborative workspaces in the industry. On this episode of Out of Office, brought to you by GalvanizeTV, we sit down with the CEO of Bonusly, Raphael Crawford-Marks. And now your host, Katie O'Block.
Hi, welcome to Out of Office. Today we're here with Raphael Crawford-Marks. He's the CEO of Bonusly. Bonusly is a SaaS platform that aims to improve employee recognition and engagement. So thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we like to start out every episode with a little bit of background on who you are and how you got started and how you got started and what you're doing now.
Sure.
So how did you get started in tech, and what was that kind of journey like for you?
Yeah, well, I've been into computers and programming for as long as I can remember, going back to middle school. So it's always been a passion of mine. And I had the good fortune of growing up in San Francisco in the mid-90s is when I kind of came of age. And so I, in high school, started working at startups, first as an unpaid intern, then as a tester, and then eventually as a programmer. And so that's how I got started over 20 years ago now. And I spent most of my career working in startups as a software engineer at early stage startups, usually as one of the first 5 or 10 employees.
I love it. And what were some of your takeaways from those companies about startup culture? Because we're going to talk a lot about culture today. What were some of your takeaways from those early days about culture and how to think about it being an employee?
I think for me, it was, I wasn't really aware of culture as something to be reflected upon and improved. A lot of times, a lot of different jobs, I would be less happy or more happy at different jobs, and I didn't really understand why at first. And it wasn't until, as I started getting older and started thinking about, okay, what were the characteristics that those good jobs shared and what were the characteristics those bad jobs shared, that I really started to realize, oh, there's something here. This is something that the people at a company can create a better culture. It's not just something that's in the air.
Right. It's not in the water.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I had a very wide range of experiences from terrible to great, I would say. And, it really wasn't until I started getting older that I started realizing, oh, this is really something that companies can improve and focus on. Yeah.
Is there a moment that stands out for you that ultimately kind of led that idea spark to Bonusly? A moment where you're like, culture makes a difference, and what that means and how that happens. Yeah,
I think I think about a couple experiences. One was kind of an ongoing experience I had at a job where, for whatever reason in that culture, and particularly the culture set by my direct manager for his team, was one of pretty poor communication and pretty kind of low expectations and low accountability. Yeah. And I remember being so frustrated because I believed so much in the work we were doing and I was putting forth a lot of extra effort, and I felt like that wasn't something that the manager and the whole team really cared about. That wasn't like a norm that had been established in the group, and I found that very frustrating. And then another one was this was very early in my career, after pulling many 80 to 100 hour weeks to get some project out, shipped before a deadline. I was given an envelope after doing this, and I was like, oh sweet, I'm gonna get a bonus.
Yeah.
And I opened the envelope, and it's a coupon for like a 10% discount on a massage.
Yeah.
And I just remember like thinking, it would have been better to get nothing at all.
Oh,
than
interesting.
This.
Yeah.
And that's always something I remember with, like, just doing something naive can actually backfire if you're not, doing it thoughtfully.
Absolutely. And so the impetus behind Bonusly, you had another day job that you were working on. You had met your co-founder, John, at that point. We'll talk about how you guys met in a second, but
Sure.
that moment where you say, we want to create this, what did that kind of session, because I would imagine it's a session or a couple sessions where you guys discuss what you want to create at that point. What did that process look like?
I mean, it looked like John and I sitting in a bar having beers and, talking about this idea we thought was interesting and talking about it in terms of, both he and I are technical, like writing coding, creating projects, and just deciding this would be an interesting side project to build. We found it interesting and exciting, the idea of building something that people might use and get value out of. And we weren't thinking about it beyond that. We weren't thinking about it as a business at that point. It was just something interesting to work on in our spare time.
I love it. And how did you meet John?
John hired me for my first software engineering job when I was all of 18 years old.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's all about the people, right?
Yep.
Always. So can you chat with us a little bit more about how Bonusly works to improve and promote recognition amongst employees?
Yeah, so Bonusly is primarily a comprehensive employee recognition platform. And the foundation of that is peer-to-peer recognition.
Okay.
The keys to effective employee recognition is recognition should be frequent and timely, specific to the behaviors or accomplishments that are being recognized. It should be tied to your company's core values, and it should be inclusive of all of your employees, both as potential recipients of recognition, but also givers of recognition. So Bonusly really kind of democratizes what has traditionally been a top-down effort that companies have with recognition, where a manager gives out recognition, or no one gives out recognition. Employees might get, a plaque on their 10th anniversary or something, but that's the extent of the recognition they get. And so all employees can use Bonusly to give one another in-the-moment recognition when they do something great, and all of the data from that is captured in the platform. So everyone can see all the great work each person is doing. People can add on to it, and so it really creates this kind of social recognition and really makes recognition the norm at the organization.
Yeah, and is it an individual app? Is it plugged into something like Slack? What does that look like on that side?
All of the above.
Okay.
We knew when we created Bonusly, we wanted companies to not be forced to adopt a web application or a mobile application. We wanted Bonusly to really bring recognition into the company's workplace in whatever way made the most sense for that organization. So Bonusly has a web app, a website that you can go to use it. We have mobile apps, but we also integrate with a wide variety of software communication tools that companies are using, like Slack, like Microsoft Teams. And then we also have an API, so really technical people can actually have direct, can hack their own programs that leverage Bonusly. So that way, no matter where you are, if you're a fully remote team, and the only way you interact with your employees is through something like Slack, you can give and receive recognition right through Slack.
Really cool. That's so neat. And knowing that you don't have to, because nothing is worse than working in a company where you have like 75 million platforms that all fit together. So that's brilliant. When your customers come to you, what kind of pain points do they come to you with in hopes to fix or improve within their culture by using Bonusly?
Yeah. Since we started Bonusly in the last 7 years, there's been this real change in awareness of company culture and employee engagement and how important that is to business success. So when people come to us, typically for smaller companies, it might be the CEO or owner of the company. For larger companies, it might be the head of HR.
Yeah.
And they know that it is crucial to their company's success to create a great work environment and retain their employees. But they're not always sure how to do it. And maybe they've done a survey and found that there are some problems going on in the organization. Maybe they just haven't done anything, but they know they should be doing something. And so they kind of come to us with that kind of vague notion, usually vague. Sometimes attention is important, and they should be doing something about it, and they're not exactly sure what. Yeah. And so really when companies come to us, we have a very consultative sales process where it's really a lot about education about, what best practices are to create a really high functioning, healthy workplace.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to take a really short break, and then we'll be back. I want to talk about how you're using technology to do those things, and then just culture in general and where we see some of those trends going in the future. So we'll be right back.
Hoping to do something faster than a 4-year degree. I'm staring down 30 now, and I knew I had to make a change. I couldn't be a bartender forever. I'm not computer illiterate, but nothing to this scale. I've never used Terminal before. I don't think your confidence level really ever changes. You're on your heels basically the whole way through. In the background, everything becomes easier. You have the skills to do the tasks. You know where to look. It quickly becomes something that you can survive and thrive at.
Hi, welcome back. We are here with Raphael Crawford-Marks, the CEO of Bonusly, and we were talking about how companies are using his platform to improve employee recognition and engagement. So one of the questions that I want to ask is why technology? Why use technology for recognition rather than in person? Does it make it more impersonal? Do companies find that to be a hurdle? Why go the technology route?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think technology helps in a couple of ways, and technology is by no means a panacea. Just having some naively built recognition tool is not necessarily going to help. But if it's done right, then it helps in two ways. One is technology can help you scale a practice that might work well when you're 5 or 10 people, but starts to break down when you grow beyond that. And so, in a lot of ways, technology can help employees feel as engaged and as empowered and as seen and heard as they in a 1,000 person company as they would feel in a 10-person company. And that's a really powerful thing to deliver. And then the other way technology helps is if you thoughtfully design the technology, you can make it easy. You can kind of design the interface to make it easy for employees to kind of do the right thing. And so in the case of recognition, it's really important for recognition to be specific to a behavior or accomplishment, not just say a generic good job, but actually call out, a specific great thing that you did or something that you accomplished. By the way we've designed Bonusly, makes it easier to do that. It's important to align recognition with the company's core values. It's easier to do that with Bonusly. It's important for recognition to be visible. Technology really enables that recognition to be visible. If I walk over to your desk and I say, hey, thanks, that's nice, but no one else has seen that. And visibility and sharing recognition stories is also really impactful. So those are the ways it can help.
So how are you with Bonusly avoiding kind of like that popularity contest, if you will, of we really like this person on the team, so we're just going to keep giving them accolades? How does that kind of, how do you like kind of curb that tendency that people just have sometimes?
Yeah. I don't think there's any perfect system. So it's not as if there aren't any, issues with like people who have jobs that interface with more people are going to tend to get more recognition. So that does happen, but having it be visible and captured in a platform can actually reveal that fact to leadership and allow them to put into place other practices that maybe make, people who are more behind the scenes help make their contributions more visible. So it can actually identify that sort of problem. The other thing is because recognition is visible, people know that any recognition they give is going to be visible to everyone else. So if I'm just saying, oh, I like you, I'm just going to give you all of the recognition I have for the month, I know that all of my colleagues are going to see that, and it just doesn't look very good.
Right.
So it's a pretty strong incentive to be a good citizen within the system and really give honest feedback.
It's holding people accountable for their actions, right?
Yeah.
So I want to switch gears a little bit, and I want to talk about culture just in general. It's a pretty hot topic. We see it in articles across entrepreneur blogs and discussed on a number of podcasts. So do you feel that the way that companies and employees is kind of view culture is kind of going through this like sea change of how we view culture and what that means as far as a company goes, from like onboarding and creating your mission and values? What is that like change that's happening, and how is that affecting companies?
Yeah, I think the workplace is undergoing a major transformation, and that's being driven by economic trends, technological trends, and cultural trends.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I think companies, a little bit belatedly, but thankfully that's happening now, are realizing that what they had done before, what had worked in the 20th century, is not going to work now. It's not going to work in an economy where employees are always looking to develop themselves and are going to change jobs if they don't feel like they're continuing to develop in the job they're in. It's not going to work in an environment where there's no kind of contract where employees are going to feel like they're going to get taken care of for their entire career by a single company. So culture is absolutely critical because it's more and more of the job seekers market, particularly in high demand roles, and companies are going to have to work harder and do more to be as attractive as possible to the top talent.
And that will only create that, it will empower the employees to have kind of like that they can beat the drum of what they need and want, and it's not just companies dictating that. That's what it sounds like. Cool. So on your Bonusly blog, I want to touch on an article that you wrote about not doing annual reviews. And it says, your line says, don't do annual reviews, they're stupid. And instead, approach something that's like smaller and easier and more frequent so that people are getting constant feedback. So giving feedback in the moment versus annually, how does that kind of impact morale and thus productivity?
Yeah. The way I think about it is, I think a good way to think about what employees want out of their work. Clearly you need to pay a competitive salary and all of that. That's table stakes. But what is really going to keep your employees is ensuring that they feel a sense of purpose and a sense of progress. And the problem with annual reviews isn't so much what happens in the annual review, but it's the fact that it only happens in the annual review. So if the only time an employee is being told about the impact they're having or their strengths and their growth areas is once per year, that's going to be extremely frustrating to the employee, and they're going to go somewhere else because you can't grow by getting feedback once a year. So if you want to keep your employees, you have to create a system where employees can get both positive and constructive feedback much more frequently and in a much more timely fashion. So if they do something, they get feedback on that within 24 hours or so.
Sure. And there have to be a culture change around that, or a shift around that as well, because annual reviews are often the only times that employees will see bonuses or raises or promotions. So how as a manager, if you take the approach of regular, consistent, smaller, frequent reviews, how can you advocate for your employees to get those raises, to get those promotions when there isn't like a formalized process around an annual review, for example?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing you have to do is you have to decouple those things that are appropriate to do annually, like compensation adjustments or bonuses, though it's debatable whether or not bonuses are appropriate to do annually, but decouple that from the kind of ongoing feedback that employees need to get much more frequently. So it's not that, I'm not saying all processes that are done annually are bad, but in the case of performance management and feedback, it is bad to do that only annually. You need to do that more frequently.
Yeah. And are leadership teams ready to make that change? What's the future of how we look at leadership, and how is Bonusly helping that?
Well, there is a change happening. You're starting to see more and more companies adopting this kind of twin model where there are certain conversations that happen annually that are more appropriate to happen annually. So compensation conversations, maybe larger, bigger picture goal setting, things like that. But then there are much more frequent feedback conversations. And so companies are starting to get the message that they need to be doing this. And so you're seeing new tools crop up that companies are adopting to do this, and Bonusly is one of them. And so what Bonusly does is, we take care of the sort of positive feedback side of that by enabling a continuous stream of 360-degree positive feedback throughout your workforce.
Yeah. Well, I love it. Thank you so much. That's all the time we have, but thank you so much for joining us. And thank you all for tuning in and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel to get more other great out of office episodes. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Have a